Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to this edition of Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. My name is Johnny Hamburger, and I'm your mental curator for this episode of Midweek Geek and all of Geek Therapy Radio's content. You can catch the show right here on KPRC 950 AM, midnight Saturday night, technically 12 a.m. Sunday. But the best way, since that's kind of late, other than telling your Uber driver to tune in, the best way to listen to Geek Therapy Radio is just subscribe to the podcast version of it. The podcast is still what actually goes over the air. It's just a much more convenient way to listen to the show if you're not out in your car or driving around or doing whatever at midnight on Saturday, or technically 12 a.m. Sunday. So subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, share it. That'd be awesome. I don't want any money from you. There's no crowdfunding thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's no sponsor the creator button down there. Just listen to it, and if you like it, share it. Let's get on to the business at hand. This edition of Midweek Geek is revisiting the Atari VCS. You may remember a few weeks ago when I was defending, well, I don't want to exactly call it defending Atari and defending the VCS. I did a segment about all the specs of the VCS, the stated specs of the VCS as far as hardware and inputs and outputs and in potential games. And what I was saying basically in regards to the scam of it all was that calling it a scam was kind of too harsh of a term. It was kind of inaccurate. Do I think that Atari is actually and intentionally trying to dupe us to take our money and never give us anything for it? I still don't really think so, 100%. I'll let that marinate for a second, because now, after revisiting this whole scenario and after more things have happened between Atari and different publications, I no longer think that Atari's case is so solid. I still don't think it's a scam. However, I would not be investing my money into this Indiegogo campaign, because at the very least, if it's not a scam, and I'm not saying it's a scam, Atari is dropping the ball on this like they have so many times in the past, if not more so now. And the fact that they've been able to raise $2.9 million as of recording of this episode of Midweek Geek, that the fact that they've been able to raise $2.9 million is kind of surprising. And if I am one of the original backers, if I'm one of the original backers who have been paying any attention to this Atari VCS, I guess you could call it scandal at this point. I'm sure Atari wouldn't call it that. And it's Atari in name only. This is not the same Atari that existed in the 70s and 80s. I thought I mentioned that in my previous episode well enough, but apparently I didn't. I said that Atari has existed in one form or another since the 70s. So anybody who's commented on the show or commented on the video I posted on YouTube saying Atari's not the same, yeah, I said that. I said that in the original episode. But Atari really, really isn't the Atari that it used to be in the 70s. That's true. It is Atari in name only. And this VCS crowdfunding project has nothing to do with the original Atari other than basically emulators running 2600 games or 5800 games or whatever games, retro Atari games. It's not, nobody who was involved in Atari back in the 70s is involved in Atari today. It's just the name. It's just the moniker. They're just releasing this hardware, and we'll get to that in a second, under the name Atari. So let's get into why I've kind of changed my tune, so to speak, on my eagerness to buy a VCS. change my tune, so to speak, with more skepticism now to the entire ordeal. Atari recently did an interview with The Register. And The Register then, in turn, after the interview, gave a pretty negative review of the Atari VCS and a very negative review of Atari as it exists right now, just as a company, just as whatever they are right now. And so Atari fired back that basically claiming fake news, that the Register misquoted them and made stuff up or whatever. That was Atari's defense. Wow, that review is bullcrap because the Register just made stuff up. And then the Register, the guy who conducted the interview, is like, dude, I have the audio tape. And they released the audio tape. And Atari really had egg on their face. So it is kind of true right now, and Atari might call me out for it right now. I don't know. What do I have? How many subscribers at the moment I'm recording? 180 right now. I'm a nobody on YouTube. I'm still building the channel, but who knows if Atari calls me out. Regardless, with Atari's previous flops, and again, I'm saying Atari under however Atari was operating at the time, whether it's as a name only or they're actually making hardware, I don't know. The name Atari is just slapped to whatever project. And those projects have failed, including crowdfunding projects. So yes, I am on board now with the skepticism. Again, giving this interview, this interaction between Atari and the press, Atari's reaction to it seems, I want to say, kind of childish. It's just not professionally inspiring. If you were going to give your $300 to the Atari to pre-purchase or to crowdfund the Atari VCS, with everything that's been going on even in the past week or two with Atari, I would be very skeptical. Just the way the business seems to be running, just their PR right now. And when the Register was asking, okay, what about these hardware things? And the guy's like, I'm not sure if it can connect to a computer or not. Whether it actually does wind up connecting to a computer or not, as of right now, there is a shakiness and they're not very, it seems like they're not very confident in what they're doing over there. That's probably the best way to put it. It seems that Atari, however it exists right now, is not confident in the product that they're proposing we spend $300 on to crowdfund. And when a company doesn't know finer details about their product, including technical details, it's like, so you don't know exactly what it's going to be yet? You don't know exactly what it's going to be yet? You can't answer such kind of basic questions right now, and you want $300? And you faked gameplay footage, which I covered in my previous episode of Midweek Geek. Take that for whatever it is. The fact remains is that in the promotional, and I admit this, the fact remains that in the promotional video, that gameplay of Tempest 4000 is not being played on a VCS. That's true. That is true. Further adding to the skepticism is Atari's dealing with the press, dealing with the media, being unable to answer questions, and then when they see a bad review, claiming that it's fake news or they made it up, only to have the Register in this case say, bro, I've got the audio tapes. You said this. With egg all over Atari's face. It's not very... Would you give $300 to Atari right now? I wouldn't. And yeah, I'm changing my tune a little bit. There has been more things to come out since my last episode of Midweek Geek. Again, it's there. We've known of the. I've known, a bit about the past flops, but that didn't really shake me. Again, my issue was calling it a scam. Was Atari trying to scam us? And I didn't think it was an outright malicious scam. My point was, it's too early to tell. in this crowdfunding campaign. It's kind of harsh to call it a scam. I think they will still put something out, and when they put something out, they have the odds stacked against them because there's already so many things occupying the market where they're trying to get into with consoles and with the NVIDIA Shield TV and all sorts of stuff. The VCS seemed to me that nothing more than a really glorified TV box, streaming box. So that's not to say it's bad, because the NVIDIA Shield TV is a glorified smart TV box. I love the NVIDIA Shield. My point with the VCS is its only hope when it came out was to have awesome first-party games, awesome exclusive titles, which is very hard to do because what developer is going to put the time and energy and money into developing a game for the VCS that's going to come out to, let's just say it, a niche segment of the market? Not many. So whoever does develop games for it has to have some sort of miraculous Hail Mary breakout title. Oh, but it's got all the retro games. It has all the old Atari games on it. The NES Classic, people are already doing that. Sega and the Nintendo, and they've been doing that. So regardless, I'm not even talking about the challenges that the VCS faces if it already actually does come out. I'm saying I'm changing my tune to much more skepticism now, adding up the past Atari flops, the past times they've tried to do this type of thing. And that wasn't really even the thing that got me skeptical. What got me really, really skeptical is it seems that the folks at Atari are running around with like chickens with their heads cut off. They don't seem confident in the product that they're trying to get you to spend $300 on. We don't know if it'll connect to a computer. We don't know if it'll do this, and they have fake gameplay footage in their promotional video, which again initially didn't turn me off. But the more Atari opens their mouth, the more that they talk to the press, the more egg they're getting on their face. I'm still not calling it a scam. I'm saying that I would think twice before putting down your $300 for this. If the VCS comes out, if it actually makes it to the market, I will be thrilled. I would be thrilled, and I might buy one. If it came out to the market. But right now, Atari doesn't seem very confident in what they're doing and very shaky on the details. So that's got me way, way more skeptical than I was last week. I concede. I'm way more skeptical of the Atari VCS right now. I wish it all the luck in the world. That's all I got to say about that. Be sure you're subscribed to Geek Therapy Radio with Johnny Hemberger. That's me. Be sure you're subscribed to the podcast. If you like the show, then share it with your friends. Honestly, that's the best thing you can do. Let me reiterate, while I got you watching this video here, if you're watching on YouTube, while I got you listening to the podcast, if you're new here, Geek Therapy Radio is all about helping people cope with life and or depression through healthy hobbies and interests and passions. I say we're all geeks about something, whether you're a geek about bodybuilding or whether you're a geek about airplanes or cars or video games or knitting or whatever. I cover a whole lot of stuff on this show, and it's to engage you. It's to engage someone listening who may have fallen out of a hobby, or help maybe someone discover a new hobby or rekindle their old hobby. It's about helping people deal with life in a healthy way. We get so bogged down by the monotony of life. Even simply, we've lost interest in old hobbies. Just spend 5 minutes with Legos again. Go through and watch Star Wars again. Everyone, whether you're conservative or liberal, we all love Star Wars and Legos. So my show is creating an oasis in the desert of media, a desert full of politics and things that are designed to get us pissed at each other and divide us. My show draws a circle in the sand of that oasis where we all come together and nerd out and geek out about things and share our hobbies and passions with each other, our interests. Because guess what? An old guy talking about remote control airplanes, that's super cool. You might not realize how cool remote control airplanes are until you talk to an old guy who's into remote control airplanes. Who knows? But that's what Geek Therapy Radio is all about. I've covered so many subjects. There's a whole backlog back there of shows that you can listen to. I talk to cool people, have really awesome interviews. So if you like Geek Therapy Radio, subscribe to the podcast. You can get it on Spreaker, on the iHeartRadio app. You can, if you have an iPhone, just click the the podcast app and search Geek Therapy Radio with Johnny Hemberger. You won't have to get through all that stuff. If you just start typing Geek Therapy Radio, you'll see it come up. It'll auto fill, and you'll see Geek Therapy Radio with Johnny Hemberger. Subscribe to all that and share it if you like it. I'm trying to do some good in this world. Let's be good to each other, starting with yourself. If you don't love yourself, if you're not good to yourself, it's very hard to be good to others. I've blabbled on long enough. That's going to wrap up this edition of Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, because the actual show, the big show, always drops on Fridays, usually, and then it airs right here on KPRC 950 AM on Saturday night, 12 a.m. Sunday, technically. But take care, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Celebrate your inner geek. We're all geeks about something, so cherish that. Let's come together as geeks and cherish it and be good to each other. That's going to do it for me. I'm Johnny Hemberger, your mental curator. This has been Midweek Geek here on Geek Therapy Radio. Take care.